Welcome to Biz Jet TV. My name is Fabrizio Poli, and today I've got another great episode for you. We're going to be meeting with Richard Koh from WingX over in Germany, which is going to be offering us his insights into what's happening with the market, tell us a bit about his company and what the company does as far as tracking private jet flights around the world. So we'll be talking about the effect of the coronavirus on the private jet market, and also Richard will be letting us know, and this is an interesting one, which aircraft he thinks is going to surge in sales and activity once the virus clears. So listen in, tune in, and let's go over to Germany now with Richard Koh. Off we go. Okay, Richard, so tell us a bit about your company, WingX, and how you serve the business aviation world.
Yeah, Fabrizio, good morning and thanks for having me. So WingX is a business intelligence company, and we serve the aviation sector. We're specialists in business aviation. We've been around about 10 years, and our focus is on deriving market intelligence from flight activity.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done is drawn together sources to track and process all the data that is associated with flight plans and flight records. And we have a data visualization software that analyzes that activity and delivers it to our customers in a way that helps them make better decisions. So our customers are really the supply chain in the aviation world. Mm-hmm. So everything from manufacturers, operators, suppliers, ground-based suppliers, airports. And we understand their business, we're veterans in the industry, and so our dashboards focus on where they need to make decisions.
Okay, good. Now, with this coronavirus lockdown and most airline fleets grounded, how is the business aircraft activity going?
It's been hit very hard. And that's hardly surprising because, after all, business aviation ultimately is a form of transportation like any others. It supports a lot of business people and leisure travel, and both those sectors have been catastrophically impacted by the lockdown, by the government policies undertaken almost globally to contain the disease.
Yeah. So now, obviously, some business jets are still flying. Can you break down region by region where these airplanes are going right now? I mean, let's take Europe, for example, as we're both in Europe at the moment. I mean, where are most European private jets going from to at the moment?
So the overall pattern hasn't changed that much, Fabrizio. I mean, it's what's gone on is that depending, I mean, you and your listeners are aware that the way that the disease has dispersed across the world is it's come from Asia, and it's then Europe has become the center of the pandemic, and following that it's now the US. And so in that order, we've seen trends in all aviation, airlines and business aviation start to get hit. So for example, in February, we could already see a big drop in business aviation flights out of China and Asia more generally. We could see sort of 30-40% declines there. Whilst actually February was flat in Europe compared to February 2019. So it really didn't have much impact, although we could start to see some decline in Italy. But then what we saw in March was the incremental impact of containment. Before the containment policies were properly locked in, we actually saw a surge in business aviation today. So aviation activity, certainly within the airline space, was shut down. That's why we saw business aviation activity actually go up in the first couple of weeks in March in Europe.
Yeah.
Particularly in some areas around London, for example. London airports actually saw an increase in activity first couple of weeks of March. But by the end of March, we're seeing declines of sort of 50 or 60%. So you were asking regionally where it's concentrated. Italy inevitably has seen a very big decrease in month on month. That's March 20 versus March 19, down about 70%. Flights down about 70%.
Yeah.
France is badly affected, down by 40%. I don't think we've seen the floor yet. I think that'll come in April. But I think that business aviation will continue flying in a way that
What
the
about
airline
US?
capacity.
I mean, the US.
So yeah,
I
the
speak to
US.
owners in the US, and it seems like they're using their airplanes. Maybe the charter market's gone down a little bit, but certainly those private owners seem to be moving around.
So let me just address the 2 points there. First of all, charter activity has been hit. I've seen a lot of reports in the media about charter activity actually doing better. At the aggregate level, is certainly not. We see it down to the individual tail sign, so we can see which operators have actually had quite a decent month, and there are a few out there.
Yeah.
But overall charter activity is down about 20%, or branded charter as we call it, and that's fairly similar both for the US and for Europe. The type of activity which has been hit hardest is actually aircraft management. So operators that have mixed fleets and largely manage aircraft on behalf of owners, those aircraft have been parked clearly, and the owners are clearly withholding permission.
So what are the owners doing? They're flying to their ranch in Montana, for example, and then
exactly, and then that's it. That's it.
In their ranch,
if that's what they do, and but the same applies to corporate flight departments, which also fall within a sort of private aircraft management. That activity, I wouldn't say it's 100% down, but it's over 50% down. So. Okay. To address your other point, North America. So North America flight activity in March is down about 30%, just under 30%. And compare that to Europe, Europe's down about 35%. So there's not a huge difference. I mean, the pace has really picked up in the last few days of March in North America. Activity has really slowed.
Okay, so which type of aircraft is flying the most right now, and why?
So there's been a shift. It's already discernible that the lighter aircraft are doing more of the flying now. Okay. They were always doing more of the flying overall. Okay, so the ultra long range and heavy jets were never the majority of activity, but there's been there's a clear sign that light aircraft and props are flying less, but not impacted as much as the long-range large cabin aircraft, and that is true of North America and Europe, and indeed all regions, but those being the two most mature markets.
Yeah, but Richard, that makes sense. I mean, if you're a high net worth individual and you have a special retreat place in Hawaii, you're going to fly your Global Express over there and then park it for a month. While if you've got the smaller airplane, you're maybe visiting your businesses during the day. You go out from London to Paris in the morning, back in the evening. And that's probably where that's happening. Now, what are the most common city pairings right now, and how is that different to last year, or is it the same?
Yeah, so I think it kind of follows on from the last topic. International borders have been closed. Okay, so intercontinental flights are difficult. They're very difficult if you look at any of the advisory notes being put up by the likes of Universal, you can see that flying across borders, and particularly intercontinentally, is very complicated. So that's the main reason that both those types of flights and the aircraft that fly them are flying less. Domestically, as in within countries, is somewhat easier, particularly in countries where the lockdown has been much less severe. So for example, in Sweden or Brazil, two countries that have a sort of well-known, more relaxed containment in terms of government policy, have actually seen much less impact in March. Sweden, for example, has actually seen an increase in domestic activity in March. Okay,
that's very interesting, because that leads into the next question, which is, once this virus is cleared, what's going to happen to business aviation? Are we going to see a surge like we did after 9/11? Where we had NetJets go out and order 425 aircraft, and the business jet started to become, I'm not saying more mainstream, but more and more people started to buy and use private jets. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, the coronavirus outbreak is similar to 9/11 in being a very abrupt shock, right? But the difference is that this already looks like having much more consequential long-term economic repercussions. And so I would not expect a surge in business aviation investment and fleet building and new market entries anytime soon. But what I would see is that the containment needs to be, or this containment policy needs to be relaxed. Businesses need to get back in action, and airline capacity, which is obviously very much supply driven in terms of bringing that infrastructure into operation, has been parked, and it will take some time to get that moving, even when the demand is released, right? Mm-hmm. So business aviation will see an opportunity there. There will be a surge in demand, and business aviation will step up. So that is, I suppose, some good news coming in probably 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. So do you think there's going to be more people now that they're sitting at home and they're seeing that, when you travel with the airlines, germs spread more because you're on planes with people you don't know? Maybe if I had my own plane, I can disinfect it every 5 minutes and have the crew, go through testing, make sure they haven't got any viruses and that spread throughout the cabin. Do you think there's more people sitting around with that thought process going through their minds, and so they'll then private aviation once this?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have seen what the industry is discussing, and there are those thoughts out there. I mean, at this point, obviously, it's speculative. It's reasonable to assume there will be that motivation, but at the same time, will it counterweigh the negative pressures on travel altogether, and particularly air transportation, where people like you and I are talking on digital platforms, but more broadly, I would say more importantly, what about all the companies that are simply cutting budgets, and that is what is undoing the need might be there, but the possibility and the economic possibility may not be. So I think it's very interesting. I think that there will be longer term from the sort of owners that we know and as well. Mm-hmm. The indifference curve in terms of the expense of flying private will shift, because people will be prepared to pay more to have that guarantee of security and hygiene. I'm not dismissing that. I just think that in the shorter term, we're dealing with such an economic crisis that all activity will be suppressed somewhat.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a shift in mindset. And yes, there are companies in difficulty, but I've been talking to some entrepreneurs over the last few days, and they've said that they know that once this clears, there's going to be lots of opportunities to acquire companies, to expand. And like every crisis, there's always someone that's going to profit. And those people, I think, are sitting on the fence now, and private aviation will be a way for them to get to these deals and do them faster than the competition.
I think you're right. I mean, if I may just interject, I mean, I think that one of the perhaps disappointments is that the big crisis we had with the great financial crisis 10 years ago didn't really shake business aviation up. It still in many ways remained very fragmented, quite old-fashioned. I think if you're looking at this positively, and there could be positives from this point of view, business aviation may become a much better service. It may start to consolidate, drop out the dead wood, and as you say, this is disruptive and will allow entrepreneurs to come in and offer new solutions that airlines can't.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the charter market is different to the corporate jet market. So within private aviation, there are different niches. You've got fractional ownership, you've got charter, you've got those charter companies that manage aircraft and then charter them out when the owners aren't using them. There's charter companies that purely do 100% charter, and then you've got the corporate flight departments, and then companies that just manage aircraft. So they're all different niches within the niche. But certainly the entrepreneur out there whose businesses have been doing well in this crisis will have the cash to go out and acquire other companies. And maybe they don't have a private jet right now, but they'll think, maybe I should get one. And there'll be charter companies that won't be able to sustain themselves right now, and they'll go bust, and their aircraft will end up on the market. And I can certainly see the prices of aircraft coming down slightly, and opportunities out there to acquire aircraft that maybe were valued at 15 million a few months ago, now worth 12. That's certainly something I see coming.
Yeah, I think, and the lighter aircraft, it's early days, but we see. I think it's reasonable to assume that the best of those will see increased demand and increased activity. So take, for example, like PC-24 with the kind of versatility to do a lot of different missions. That could be a great platform on which to build a charter business to respond to the new situation.
Yeah, even PC-12s. I mean, PC-12s, PC-24. That lower end of the market, a lot of entrepreneurs start building locally, and then as their business grows, they then go international. So the PC-12, the PC-24, great aircraft to start on and start with. Richard, now in closing, anything else you'd like to add value for our, those watching Biz Jet TV?
Well, yeah, I think that let's keep positive. I think we're agreed that in this containment policy will be lifted in really in a matter of sort of weeks, maybe a month or two, and when it does, there will be pent up demand, and that will be a great window for business aviation because the airlines won't be there. So I think it's really important that the industry gets ready, keeps an eye on the market, and watches for the window.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Richard, for being on Biz Jet TV. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Pilatus PC-24, the PC-12, those two aircraft are going to see quite a surge with those two aircraft just after the virus clears. As Richard shared with us, and I tend to agree with him, that low end of the market is going to pick up, but I also see the larger aircraft market picking up as well, in particular on the lease front, which is something that we offer here. And so, you can ping me an email on fab@orvillaviation.com, and we can talk about our lease programs, which anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. That could be an interesting solution for you. So if you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Comment below. We love to hear your comments and give us a thumbs up. I'd like to direct you now to 2 other videos. One about the three financial aspects of private jet ownership. Check that one out, very interesting. And this other one about the quantum economy and private jets. And please have a look at the playlist as well. Lots of content on here, all about the private jet world. And that's all from Fabrizio Poli on Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.